All right, welcome back. So today in this video, I'm going to be building an automation to connect Calendly to Close.com. So my client wants every time there's a booked call in their Calendly account, and actually only two specific calendars, then they want that created a lead in Close.com as well as an opportunity created. So I'm going to walk through this whole thing, how to set that up. And when I do this, I'm using make.com, similar to Zapier, but Make's actually a lot better and it's cheaper too. So go ahead and let's get started here, follow along, and we're going to build this out from scratch. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up close.com here just to show you this is what how my client wants it to look. So they want the contact created and then an opportunity created here with the questions and answers from the calendar in the little notes section of this opportunity. And then some custom field down here entered, which I'll show you that. So now let's head back over to Make, and then we're going to start a new scenario. So the first thing we're going to search for here is Calendly, because we want it to, when there's a booked call in Calendly, that's what's going to trigger this to happen. So I'm going to select Calendly, and I'm going to do Watch Events. So this is an instant trigger, meaning it's just waiting for a booked call to come in from Calendly, and then this will run. As opposed to other ways that Make can work is it can go and check every once in a while for any updates in the system. But this one is an automatic, so it's waiting for data. All right, so first thing we need to do is create a webhook. You click on create a webhook. From here, you can go ahead and name your webhook whatever you want. Really doesn't matter, just name it something. And then you're gonna have to create a connection. Now, when you click on the add button for create a connection, I've already connected mine, but when you click on the add button, you can name this connection, you click save, then you have a pop up and it just has you log into your Calendly account. And then once that's done, you'll be brought back to this screen and you'll have this. And what we're going to select here is which event do we want this to trigger off of. For now, we're just going to do invitee created. I can do it, set up something up later if I wanted to do when there's canceled events, but we're just doing when it's created, meaning when there's a booked call. And then down here for the organization URI, you'll go ahead and just from the drop down select should be the only one that pops up. Okay, so I selected the organization URI. You can leave the user URI blank. That doesn't matter. That means just this will fire for all calendars in the account. Then when you're done, click on save. I'm not gonna click on save because I've already made the connection, but I'll just click on close. And then you also click on OK here once that's made. So now you have your module set up. I'm actually gonna pull up one I've already created since I've already made the connection. I have this one here. The next thing I'm gonna do, and this is what I do for pretty much all of my scenarios, is I'm gonna add in the HTTP module. Let me just show you from scratch. Click on the add button, type in HTTP. You'll find it right here, HTTP. And I choose get a file. The only reason I'm doing this, and I've talked about it in some of my other videos, but this is so I can have the scenario break as I'm testing it. So I don't have to go and book calendar events, one or multiple events just to get the data over. So I can book one calendar event and then I can use that data multiple times till I get the scenario correct. In the URL here, we just have to put in something that's not a URL. And I'm gonna click in the URL bar and I'm just gonna choose under the gear icon, the execution ID. This is just a string of numbers, not a URL. So this is gonna cause an error to happen in the scenario. So I'll click OK. Now we have this set up. So when I book a call, it's going to cause the scenario to break. What that's gonna do is gonna keep the information in here as a packet in queue so I can use it multiple times. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna load up one of the calendar events from Calendly and I'm going to book a call. So I will come back when I'm done with this. Now when I do this, I'm gonna make sure the scheduling is off and I'm not running once. So just in the same state that I have right now. The reason for this, you'll see here in a minute. So I'm gonna go book the call now. All right, so I booked a call. Now if I come back here, what I'm gonna do is now I'm going to run once. And if I run once, see now I have unprocessed data in webhook queue. So I'm going to click on use existing data. And what it's going to do, so we have one here that ran, and now it goes over to this one and it caused an error. See, it broke because it's an invalid URL. And that's good, that's what I wanted. Because now this still has that packet of queue in here. If this was a success scenario, then that packet would be gone and I have to go book another call if I want to run this again. So if I click on run once, see the packet of queue is still there and I can just use existing. Then it runs again. So now I can set everything up and just cause it to break as I'm getting everything set up for testing. Okay, so we have that. All right, the next thing I'm gonna do is add the module of close. So I'll click on the plus button here. And I already have it here, but I'll just show you. You would search for Close and then click on Close CRM. And then from here, now what I want to do is I don't want to have another lead created in Close. So I'm going to search for leads first. I'm going to search for leads. And we'll put that in there in between here. So I'm always just going to have this as my last module for now so that, again, the scenario breaks. Now to create a connection in Close, you'll have to go over to your settings in Close and get the API key. When you click on add button here, it's going to ask for the API key. Okay, so you're going to come over to Close, you're going to go to settings, and then you're going to go down to developer. And then from here, you're going to create an API key. So click on new API key, name it whatever you want. I just name it Calendly. Click create API key, copy the API key, and then we're going to come back to make here, name it whatever you want, put your API key in, and then click save. Now I've already done that. So here's my connection here. Next, this is the search module. So what we're going to do is we're going to search for however you want to search. Contact's email, contact's phone number. I like doing email. And so I'm going to, from the box here, select this is my email because I just booked a call. So I'm going to select email. And then I'm going to click OK. Now, to demo this, I can run once, use that same packet of information, and it's going to go through and see it found one, or this module is a success, but then again, it's failed. Now, if I click here, this shows there was total number of bundles was 0. This means that there is not a lead in Close yet, which is good because I haven't been in the Close account. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to add in a router. So I'm gonna right click here and I'm going to add a router. And so a router is we're gonna have multiple paths going. So I'm gonna have one path up here. If the lead does not exist, I'm gonna create the lead. If the lead does exist, then we're just gonna update the lead. So I'm gonna add another Close module in here. This one is going to be create a lead. And we're going to drag this up here. Also, what I like to do is right click and then show route order. Because then you can see which path it goes down first. This will go down first and then second. If I want to change the order of that, all you have to do is unlink this. Now see, this one's first, and then I can link this back up. So it's always going to go in the order that you connect them. So if I were to have, let's do, say, 2 more here. But maybe I want this one to be last. So if I unlink this, and say I want this one to be second, I'll unlink. I'll just say unlink all these. And now, say I want this one to be second, connected, since this one's already connected, third, and then now fourth. Also, you can do auto align, and this will line it up always from top to bottom in the order that they go down the path. All right, so what we're doing here is we see the total number, the output of this is total number of bundles equals 0. So that's what we're going to do up here. For the filter, we're going to put in total number of bundles equals 0. That means it didn't find any leads. Just calling it lead does not exist. And this is total number of bundles equals to 0. We'll click OK. So now, if it does find a lead, it won't go down this path. And that will be our next path that we'll set up. But this one, now we're going to head into this module and set this one up. What's the name that I want to name it? I want to name the lead, name of the person that booked call. So we're going to select name from Calendly. And then what else I want to select here? Status. We're going to set it as demo scheduled because that's what we're doing. We're scheduling a demo now. That's the status that's set up in Close. So however you have your statuses set up, that's what you would select here. Now the contact, we also want to create a contact within Close. So the name is going to be, we're going to scroll down to the Calendly module as well, and we're going to select name. In Close, if you know this or not, there are leads, which is essentially kind of like businesses, because then you can have contacts within those leads. So that's why we're creating a contact with this, because you could have one lead, which a lot of times could be the business name, but then there might be multiple people that you're in contact with from that specific business. That's how that works. So the name, now the email, I'm just going to choose, for example, this one, direct, and we're going to fill in the email. Come down, we're going to do the email from the booked event in Calendly, which would be email right here. And then we're also going to do the phone number because we are collecting the phone number. Select direct, phone number. This down here, we're actually collecting it on one of the questions. So I'm going to do the question and answers. And this is the first question on the Calendly form. But I also like to do this. Instead of just doing the answer, which would be the phone number. And then I'll put 1 because this goes based on how many questions there are. So if there's 8 questions, then it's going to be question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be in that order. So whatever question is first, that's question number 1. And I know that is the first question on the Calendly form is the phone number. But I also want to do this because if a client goes and changes up maybe the name or changes the order of the questions, then it could cause us to break. So here's something that I can do. I'm going to put an if. So an if else. If question, first I'm going to do is if the question to number 1 equals, so I'm going to go to the gear icon, we're going to select equals. And now I know the name of this question is phone. It's just phone, not phone number. But if the question equals phone, then the value, so this is your if else if you're using, say, Excel or Google Sheets. If 1 equals 1, then output A. If not, output B. If 1 equals 2, in this case it doesn't, then output B. So I'm going to output the answer of 1. And then if not, I'm just going to do the ignore. Close the parenthesis, and now we have that. What else do we have down here? Okay, so we have a custom field here of date created. So what I'm going to select here, I'm going to go back to the little star, which is the modules. And I'm going to select from here, created at. Now we'll see in our test if this date actually works, how this is in Calendly. If not, we'll come back and do a little modification for formatting the date. Now for the closer, this is going to be who's assigned on the calendar because the calendar is round robin. So who it's assigned to. And I'm going to turn the mapping off because then I'd have to select one of these specific people. So I'm going to turn the mapping off, or actually I'm going to map it. And then in here, I'm going to scroll down. And if we go to scheduled event membership, in here, this is the people that are on the actual calendar, the person who's booked. So in this case, I'm going to select the user name. And what that's going to do is whoever that calendar is assigned to, it'll put that person's name in here. Now, one thing to note is if you have this custom field in Calendly or junior, it's going to cause an error because it's not exact. But I've already lined those up and made sure that the options in the custom field and close are exactly what they are on the Calendly event. All right? So I'm going to click OK. Before I run the test, what I'm going to do now is we want to create the opportunity. So I'm going to go down, we're going to, in close, we're going to select under opportunities, create an opportunity. Connect that up here, open up the create opportunity. Now, every time in Make you see something that's bolded, that means it's a required field. Everything else is optional. If you're going to create opportunity, it has to be attached to a lead. So I'm going to turn the mapping on. In this case, we are going to now, from the create a lead module, I'm going to select lead ID. So now it's going to use that lead ID to create the opportunity connected to that lead. Under the status ID, we're going to do demo scheduled, same as the lead status, but this is for the opportunity status now. So let's look back. What else do we have in here? For the opportunity, if I click on the edit button here, status, for this one was a demo no-show, but we're already set up as demo scheduled. All right, for the confidence, I'm going to leave that blank, and that will just put it in as default 50%. My client didn't mention that at all. The value said it's always 4,800. So I'm going to come down to the value. I'm just going to type in 4,800. The value period, that is going to be what's next to it, one time. So it can be one time, monthly, or annually. Now on the note, this is where we're going to put the question and answers. So we're going to scroll down to Calendly. We're going to find question and answers. What we're going to do is we're going to do the question first. I'm going to do a new line, and I'm going to do the answer. And now in here, this will be, since the first question I already know is the phone number, I'm not going to put the phone number again in here. So we're going to start with question number 2 and then answer number 2. I'm going to do a new line, and I'm going to do question, new line, answer. So it's going to have the question on top and the answer on bottom. Now what I'm going to make this easier, I'm going to do question, answer, question, answer. All right, so I know there are 5 questions on the form. Actually, there's 6, but question number 1 is the phone. So 2, 3, 4, 5, All right, so that's going to put in all the question and answers. And all right, so that's the setup for this create opportunity. So I'm going to click OK. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to set up another one, and this is going to be if the lead already exists, we want to just update the lead and update the opportunity. So I'm going to close, and this time I'm going to scroll down to update a lead. I'm going to connect this right here. Now again, I want this to be last for our testing, so I'm going to unlink, and I'm going to link it back. Now it's second and third. Coming here, we're going to do the filter is just the opposite of this one. We have total number of bundles equals 0, and lead, we'll say lead does exist. So I'll say lead does exist. Here we're going to do total number of bundles equals, we're just going to say not equal to 0. That simple. And click OK. Now we're going to update the lead. Lead ID. Now this is going to be the lead ID from the search module, the one that we found before searching the lead. I'm going to select lead, and then we're going to scroll down, and what do we want to update here? Date created. We want to update the closer here. So I'm going to turn the mapping on, and again, I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to select under the scheduled event, event membership, and we're going to select the username. That's all we're going to do for this one, and click OK. Now, two ways you can go about this. You can either update the opportunity that's already in there, or you may want to just create another opportunity. So it really depends on what you and your client want. A lot of times an opportunity is for a specific offer. So you might want to actually just create a new opportunity, and that's what I'm going to do in this case. And to make that easy, I can just right click. I can clone this module since I'm already creating it, and then connect it down here. Now the only thing I'll have to change, which means that little yellow bubble there, we have to change the lead ID, because this lead ID 17 is from this one up here, which is 17. We need the one from 18 here. That's also why you see here this is the hollow or see-through, whereas these are actually filled in. That's because there is no, it doesn't have a reference to module 17 because that's on a different branch. So I'm going to delete that out, and under the update lead that it found, either one, I can go down to from the search lead that it found or the update lead. Same thing because it's using the same lead ID. Come down here, demo scheduled, value, one time, questions, and then that's all we're going to do for this. Click OK. I like to save my work every once in a while, so I'm going to save that. All right, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and actually test this out before we continue on. I'm going to click on Run Once, and we're going to do Use Existing Data. So what we should see is it should go down this first path here, create the lead, create the opportunity, and not go down the second path because these filters are the opposite. Then it'll also still fail because I wanted to go through and test this just to make sure this works correctly. So use existing data. 1, 2, goes up there. Got blocked down here because it didn't meet the filter. And that's good. So let's go into close and let's find that lead and see that opportunity. Go back to leads. And then it's my lead, as you can see here, is right on top, demo scheduled. So let's click on my name. And what we see here is we have my name, we have the opportunity, and we have the custom fields down here. So date created and the closer. If I click on the contacts, we can see my phone number and my email is in there. But one thing I do notice on the opportunity here, click on edit, we see the value came in as 48, not 4,800. So we need to go back here. We need to go into the create an opportunity here, and 4,800. So that comes out to, so I think we need to add 3 more zeros. All right, and then also another thing, the date 1. I don't remember if the date 1 is the estimated close. It might be. So I'm going to also fill this in, and we're going to test it again. I'm going to come down back to here. We're going to do whenever the event was created, and we're going to try that. Because this time what I'm going to do to test this, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to delete this opportunity. So I'm deleting my opportunity. I'm not going to delete the contact or lead. I'm going to keep the lead there. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to run once. And now, see, it didn't create a new lead because the lead existed. It found it, but then it went and created the opportunity. So now we'll come back here. We'll check. Here's the opportunity. Oh, I was off by a 0, 48,000. That's not what we want. We go in here. Okay, the estimated close. So that is, the estimated close is the same thing as date 1. So We're going to leave that because that's what my client wants. And then here we're going to move a 0. I'm going to click OK. Come back. I'm going to delete this again and test it out. And that all should be good. Okay, let's run another test. Run once, use existing. There. Now we come back. Should pop up here any second. There it is. And correct. Good. We have demo scheduled. Estimated close with the date it was created, which is today, June 5th. And the value is 4,800. One time. Here's the question and the answers. All right, so that covers creating a lead and an opportunity, or updating a lead and creating an opportunity in Close. But one other thing that my client wanted was only specific calendars. So now what we want to do is I want to put in a filter here to only send these events over from specific calendars within the Calendly account. So the way I'm going to do that is we need to basically get the serial number for that Calendly calendar. What I don't like doing is I don't like using the name of the calendar, because my client or someone could always go change the name of the calendar. And that can change, and you have to come in and change this automation. What I like to do is grab the serial number of that calendar. It's like the UUID, it's called the UUID, but basically a serial number. That doesn't change, but everything else about the calendar can change. So where we're going to get that is, first off, if I show the output data from this calendar, if we come down to the event, we're looking for is event type. So I do schedule event and then event type right here. So this is the specific ID of that calendar. So one, I can get it this way, but say I want to run this for multiple calendars. Do I want to go in and book all these calls and all these different calendars to get that? I could, but here's another way to do it. Come back to Calendly, and we're going to scroll down to get an event type. I'm going to move this over here. And what I'm going to do, actually, I'm just going to connect this here. That way, if I run once, I still will keep this and not lose that queue. Now under the event type, if I turn the mapping off, from the dropdown, I'm going to find the specific calendar that I want to get that for. And this one, it's going to be this one here. And so I select that. Now when I turn the mapping on, this gives the actual calendar UUID event for that. So I'm going to highlight, I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to come back into my filter here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to put that UUID down here for the event type. And then under the condition, we're going to scroll down to the scheduled event, and we're going to select event type. So see how it's API-calendly.com/event type, API-calendly.com/event type. So as long as this equals this, it'll pass through this filter. And I can add another, not an and rule, we're going to add an or rule. Or it might be on a different calendar. And so this one, again, we're also going to select the event type. Now I need to go get the UID for that next calendar. So I'm going to come back here, click into this one, and I'm going to turn this off. Now I'm going to select the other calendar, which is this one. Turn the mapping back on to get the actual ID. Copy this, cancel that. Come back in the filter here, and we're going to add that in. Name it whatever you want. I just put in main calendars for now. And we'll click OK. And now we have the filter set up. So it should go through because hopefully I selected the correct calendar and put in the filter. But if not, then it's not going to go through. But let's run once. Use existing. So see, it went through because that UUID matched that UUID. And so now it went into Close here. And so after that, now I can just go ahead and I can name my connection here. We're going to say Calendly to Close. Do that. And then I also like to do auto align just to get this set up, looking better, so things are all moved around. And the other thing I'm going to do is error handlers now. So for in case any of these break for some reason, sometimes API, they just have connection errors, things like that. So I'm going to right click on, what I'm going to do is for all of these, because these are API calls that are going out to the software, instead of just like internal to make, I'm going to add an error handler. What I'm going to choose is break. So break, what this is going to do is, say this has some error, then if I didn't have this break in here, this scenario would just stop running. It would turn off, then I have to come back in and turn it on and run the data again, and gets much of a hassle. If you put in the break error handler, what it's going to do is, if this does break, it's going to go down to the break module, and this is showing here number of attempts. By default, it's set up as 3. and the interval between attempts, 15. So what it's going to do is going to store all the information up into this module, up until this point. It's going to store the information, and it's going to try again 15 minutes later. It's going to try a max of 3 different times. Then after that, if it doesn't work, then it's going to turn the scenario off, and then I'll come back in and check it. But a lot of times it could just be a temporary error going on with the software, with the API. And so by doing this break module, it'll automatically run again 3 times after 15 minutes, usually good enough. You can raise this up if you want to have it keep trying, but I think this is good for a standard amount of time. Click OK. Now, same thing, I'm going to add it in for all of these as well. Add error handler, we're going to do the break. Add another one here, add error handler, break. And we'll do this down here. Break. Okay. Add error handler, break. Okay. And so now if any of these break, it's going to hold that information. So if it breaks right here, it's going to, all this is already run, but it's going to hold this information, then it's going to try again and to finish the scenario. So that's how that's going to work. Let me just move this up here. Looks a little better now. So I have that. Now we see these little red bubbles. What we have to do is we have to come down to the scenario settings, and we have to turn on allow storing of incomplete executions. Turn that on, and that allows it to store the information that's incomplete. Click OK. Now the red bubbles go away. And what we can do now is I can save it, and then I can turn it on. So if I turn it on, I process old data. It's going to run that one again that I just did. So if we go back into Close, we'll actually should see, I think, 3 different opportunities now because of how this ran. All right, so that's how I set up a connection between Calendly and Close.com using Make. And it's set up so that when there's a booked call in Calendly, it will look up the lead in Close to see if the lead exists or not. If it doesn't exist, it will create the lead and create the opportunity. Now you can set it up to update the opportunity, create a new one, but this gives you the basic setup of how to connect Calendly with Close. And we also added a filter in for specific calendars. Now, if you thought this video was helpful and useful and you learned something, it'd be greatly appreciated if you give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. I got some other resources down in the description there. So with that being said, I will see you on my next video.